I think basically this project was having two guys step up a plane with really no resources and really not a lot of well, we did know how to do it, but we didn't have any resources. We didn't even know exactly where we'd be building. We stepped off the plane about 4 weeks ago, and this project was about how we could adapt to the context that we were in. And basically, the project wasn't really so much about design as it was understanding the cultural, economic, and social value system within Hinche, and understanding how to source materials and deal with countless obstructions along the way and be part of that sort of adventure. Basically, the house design is extremely simple. We kind of explored a lot of different sites to build. We explored this area called Lobby, which is outside of Hinche a bit, where really the only typology there is mud wattle homes. And we were a little bit scared to work so far away from Hinche. Hinche is a town of, I think, of about 100,000 people. You wouldn't think it's a very small community. It's very kind and peaceful, unlike abrasive Port-au-Prince. We were like, okay, we don't want to work at Lobby, and we just kind of went on this kind of roller coaster ride of talking to like a lot of different people. We had a grant to the Dell Social Innovation competition administered through Brown, and we wanted to do something that would be profitable to us because in a sense we were actually giving something away, which we didn't want to do, but we're like, okay, it's worth it from a research standpoint to experiment with this typology and see, okay, how are people going to respond to it? You guys are probably familiar with earthbag, earthbag construction, otherwise known as super adobe. Basically, you have, it's really simple. You have a sack and you put earth in it and you tamp it down, and you have basically modular rammed earth units. Earthbag works by using like this material called polypropylene, which is what they administer aid through. So a lot of countries have existing polypropylene bags that you put normally rice and beans, but in this case you can put earth inside. And basically, whenever you tamp it down, let's see, you can buy the polypropylene in these rolls locally here at Accra Industries. And so we bought the rolls, and you kind of spool them out in lengths that you want. You cut off a bag, and then you fill it. Basically, so you have your bag here. You get a bucket, you cut off the bottom of it, and you wrap the bag around it, kind of like as a sock. And you just dump earth inside here, and basically in section, when they're tamped, the earth looks like this. You just tamp it down, and it's extremely resilient. There's been a lot of hype recently, and earthbag has really taken off because it's extremely resilient to natural disasters. It can withstand an 8.0 earthquake, and they've done tested beyond that, and they're afraid that they're going to break machines that actually do the testing because it's extremely strong. They don't want to go too far in their settings. And the great thing about it, unlike so many projects that USA, so many NGOs do, is that it can be done locally using local materials, and it can work within an existing market sort of value system. Anybody can do it, even two guys like me and my collaborator. I'm from Oklahoma State University, my friend's from Georgetown. We built 2 projects, this was our 3rd, and I'll be honest with you, we don't know everything there is to know about earthbag, but we're proving the system that just about anybody can do it with about like 2 or 3 days of training. So anyways, we talked to different people. I had my iPhone. I kind of showed them what the project was, what we're considering building. Everybody liked it. Usually earthbag is within sort of a circular typology. It's usually round, and people get really organic with it and how it attaches. And the thing about this, though, is it's extremely introspective, and Haitian culture is not. It's very extroverted. It's very community-oriented. The gallery is such a huge social importance. And so the problem with earthbag is that everything is, inward oriented. So a lot of people have actually built structures like this using earthbag technology in Haiti, but they failed because no one actually moved into it. They give someone something basically for free, and no one lives in it because it goes against sort of their identity. And so we did a square structure using earthbag, which isn't as strong, but it's still pretty strong. And everyone liked it, basically because they were a little bit uneasy because it's like you're building a house out of earth instead of cement block or wood, and we're like, yeah, but it looks just like your house that you have already, so I think you're going to like it, and they did. And we signed on with this guy, his name was Luxon. He had this awesome plot of land that was, I'll describe right next to it, or he had a house that was exactly the dimensions of the house that we wanted to build right next to it. And he had a plot of land. It was a pretty tight context, but it was just enough to where we could put our home right next to his. His was about 10 feet by 16. Ours was 12 by 16. So it was a perfect situation that we could land ourselves in. We first hired about 5 people using Luxon as, and he could speak a little bit of English, so he kind of worked as our partner in helping source materials and source labor. And that was really kind of interesting because the way Haitians think about work is very loose and informal, and the way I think about it is very formal and rigid. And so there's a little bit of give and take there. Someone said that Haitians really don't, or people don't really understand like the concept of exchanging goods for services, and so we kind of dealt with that a little bit in that people were surprised they were getting paid, or everything was negotiated, or every time there was sort of this expectation that we would pay more than what we actually said we would. But that was actually a pretty good experience on learning how to manage sort of the local human capital there. We paid people 250 good per day, and we had generally about 5 people working for about 2 weeks of the 3-week period that we were there. The main problems in city salons where we build within Hinche is that no one has the trees. Water supply is extremely limited, and every home is extremely overcrowded. That's, I think, for his home, he lived there, and he also have other people, other relatives there, and there might be as many as 10 people living in a space, this small. Usually, there's 2 rooms. He had sort of a bed here, and had generally just worked as storage, but basically people lived and worked off of the front porch system. People live outside of their home. The home is really only used as a place of security. And so I was talking a little about cultural values. The ideal structure would be round, and the ideal structure would have a lot of ventilation. But in the culture that we sort of found is that people wanted extreme security, not only for physical violence possibilities, but also spirituals. In the case of voodoo, where they believe that there's this creature called the luger that might penetrate any opening at all, and so every opening has an incredible shutter system, and they try to limit their openings as much as possible. So when you go inside anybody's house, it's extremely stagnant air, and it's really bad. And I think someone was mentioning that there could be a lot of problems. Tuberculosis has a lot of opportunity to spread within such airtight spaces. So when we came, our section was something like this, and everyone was just like, "Wait, what are you doing?" They were like, "Aren't you going to close this up over here and here?" And they were like, "No, you can get cross ventilation through here," and that's not a felt need of theirs. And so we ended up kind of coming almost all the way up. We left a little bit of airspace, but our section was pretty closed up. There were a few other things where we kind of made some compromises because even though we couldn't really rationalize it, it was something that they felt and it was extremely important to them. Let's see. but it was a pretty successful project. Habitat's budget for a single room home is about $4,500, and when they heard that we could do it for about $2,000, they were like, well, if you guys can do it for $2,000, maybe we can work out a deal. So this was sort of an experiment to see what happens when two Americans kind of step off a plane, they know nothing about the community, and can they actually build for $2,000? And it was really pretty awesome. We got the polypropylene from Accra, we got the barbed wire from Accra, but everything else was sourced there in Hinche, and we used their informal market system. We had to use wood for the forms. In order to get nice corners with earthbag, you have to have existing forms just so you have a nice corner. Our goal was to try to make it look like it was a cement block house. And so basically that kind of helped. The sand we got from two different rivers. There's two different rivers that go through Hinche, and so we're like, hey, one has sand and one has gravel, and so we're able to use both. And basically everything else we got from Hinche, including tools, nail screws, and the most interesting thing that we got was bamboo. Bamboo isn't grown for structural use at all. It's just kind of informally grown here and there, and so we found a hotel that actually had a bunch of bamboo, and so we cut it down and transported like 30-foot long pieces of bamboo like 5 miles to our site, which is really kind of an adventure. But we were able to get the bamboo for free, and that was something that everyone's a little bit worried about because bamboo is traditionally associated with sort of bad circumstances, like desperate circumstances. And so Luxon's like, no, bamboo is bad, you can't use bamboo. And they're like, no, we can, and it'll work. And so that was one of the things we kind of pushed was use of bamboo. We built basically